Is 424 the next off-white? Let's get into it.
The late great Virgil Abloh is widely considered as one of the greatest creative fashion minds in recent memory.
That is
Through
true.
his many different brands, passion projects, and creative outlets, Virgil's philosophy is what separated him from most fashion designers. Guillermo Andrade, an immigrant from Guatemala and the creator of 424 and Fairfax, has been taking over the fashion industry within the past few years. Similar to Virgil's brand Off-White, Guillermo's streetwear brand is creating buzz in the world of fashion. Although they have different stories, Guillermo and Virgil share similar philosophies that have helped the rise of their brands. Not only do I think 424 can become...
Now, I think the models that they've had so far for this year and last year's fashion weeks have been good. Is it too early? Is it too early to say that 424 is the next Off-White though? Is it too early to say that 424 is the next Off-White?
The next Off-White, I believe that Guillermo is this era's Virgil. Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Lil Hands, man, the world's flyest YouTuber all the time. And y'all already saw the intro, y'all saw the title. We are here to talk about Guillermo, the creator of 424, and Virgil Abloh. So I was watching the past Paris Fashion Week runway. I'm sure you guys seen it. My boy Cash K was in it. Bruce Drop Him Off was in it. Snap was there. All of that. And it was a lit event, great collection.
There
Shout out to 424. I believe this is their second or third collection at Paris Fashion Week. Shout out to them. That's not easy to do. But when I was looking at the runway, I kind of saw some similarities between 424 as a brand and Virgil. And I know we look at Virgil as like he's just such a on a different stratosphere as a lot of different fashion designers, and I agree, but I think Virgil shares some different philosophies that Guillermo also shares, and it's the reason why they've both curated successful brands. So basically, we're going to talk about my two different philosophies that I think they both share, and the reason why I think Guillermo can become the next Virgil. If you like breakdowns like this, please feel free to like, subscribe. You know, we go deep about the fashion on here. We don't just talk about swag, we talk about it deeply. So, all right, so the first philosophy that they share is fashion is about the story, not just the product. Virgil and Guillermo proved that fashion is a blank canvas that designers should use to paint a picture of their own personal story and ideologies, not just to create a product. So we're going to start off with Guillermo's mindset. So if you...
That is true. That is true. Fashion is way more than just a fucking hoodie with a design on it or fucking pants with paint splatters all over them. There gotta be history and there gotta be culture behind the clothes, bro. He's not wrong.
You see me looking down, I'm just looking down at my notes. Guillermo, being an undocumented immigrant, uses his pieces and collections to reflect on his experiences as an immigrant and how it has helped shape his perspective. Now, this is not an origin video of either brand. If you want to see videos like that, there's a lot on the internet. Just type in 424 or Off-White. But we're basically using some of his information and showing how it applies to what he does with his clothes. Guillermo, as a kid interested in clothes and thrifting, grew to love the process of deconstructing and upcycling materials. For this reason, Guillermo's collections almost always feature
This shit was hard. I can't even hate. This shit was hard.
Constructed fabrics and garments and his own creative interpretation on classic items. 424's whole brand identity points back to Guillermo's story of being an immigrant who wished he could travel the world. So even the brand name 424, I forget the exact story because it was kind of a little bit confusing. 424 points back to Guillermo's wish when he was an immigrant to travel all around the world, and it's becoming true, you know what I mean? I use clothes to invite people into my story. These products represent more than just a piece of clothing. I told you earlier about these boots. This is not about a pair of shoes. It's about a moment in my life. And I truly believe people feel the personal connection and the emotional investment I put into these products.
Now, people that have... You could tell the difference between a nigga that just makes clothes and a nigga that loves clothes. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of... Listen, I'm not trying to diss niggas. I'm not. But you could tell when niggas like the Rugrat graphic tees or like a fucking bedazzled full zip up hoodie. You could tell who's just trying to make clothes and they think they're a fashion nigga, but they're really in it for the money, or people that love the culture of fashion as a whole.
I'm aware that my products are very expensive, but I'm not going to give you the heritage of Louis Vuitton or the dynamic design and product innovation of Prada. So I've always felt it was really important that if I was going to sell something and it was expensive, it should have a meaning. So knowing this about Guillermo's upbringing and how he started to fall in love with like just clothes and deconstructing, how he executes this in his own brand. And Guillermo's been doing this for a minute, but recently I feel like the brand's really been taking off. It's been a LA staple for a minute, but now it's like kind of out of there to where it's having fashion week shows, right? So as an immigrant, life has not always been perfect for Guillermo, and he uses his collections to reflect that. Guillermo believes that his art is perfectly imperfect, which is important. Guillermo always says that his art is perfectly imperfect, and that true perfection comes from imperfect ideas. So the reason why I think that's important
That's fair.
Guillermo understood life from a different perspective, a perspective as an immigrant, right? And life was never perfect. You never always had everything you may have wanted. But the imperfection of life is where true beauty comes from. And Guillermo realizes that, and he realizes that in his pieces, to where he says he will never, he's not Louis Vuitton where every item is going to be perfect, a perfect garment. No, he uses his take to create imperfect items which people can resonate and relate to. You know what I mean? Through his designs, you can see him going against the normal idea of what high-end fashion.
These boots are hard as fuck. I got to get my hands on these. These are hard as fuck. You know what I'm saying? And a red, like a red or a green, a red or a green colorway, this shit would be fire.
And streetwear it could be. Guillermo understands that people connect with the story before they ever connect with clothes. So how this connects to Virgil is, as Virgil has always used his brand as an outlet to express creative ideas, share his own creative interpretation on iconic things, and inspire young designers with similar stories to create their own brand and create their own art. Now we're going to speak a little bit about Virgil's mindset when he was creating Off-White. So Virgil named the brand Off-White to symbolize the gray area between black and white. In this case, it would be streetwear and high-end fashion, and Off-White is the middle ground, so the gray area. So this is streetwear, this is high fashion. Virgil wanted his brand to be in the middle. But this also ties to Virgil's experience as a younger kid, being a black person, being around a white person. So he kind of felt like he was in the middle of the two, that he was a black person at heart, obviously, but he was around the white people, so maybe he's just somewhat in the middle, you know? Off-White is just basically two.
That could be a reach. But I'm gonna let him continue.
Different entities sharing a middle, fusing together and creating a middle ground between the two. That's what Off-White was, right? If you think about it, that's pretty deep, you know what I mean? Shout out to Virgil, man. RIP Virgil too, man. Although a different story, Virgil had an authentic goal of building a brand that sparks certain emotions in the consumer before they ever purchase.
This nigga
so
recording in
before
an
you
empty
ever
ass
purchase
room.
Off-White and see them price tags back in the day, like you can resonate with the fact of finding that middle ground or being in the middle of two separate opposite entities, you know what I mean? And at that time, like when I say black and white was streetwear and high fashion, at that time when Virgil created Off-White, it was not normal at all for streetwear and high fashion to blend together. It was either you Gucci, Louis, Prada, or your Supreme, V-Lone, Off-White.
Right.
Like all of that stuff was
fair.
different. But nowadays you can see a lot of high-end fashion places, they take from streetwear brands, or streetwear brands take from high-end fashion brands, and it's fused together. And Virgil is one of the main reasons that happened. So shout out to Virgil for that. He blended them all together. That's what Off-White was. Off-White was the middle ground between high-end fashion and streetwear. He didn't do it by himself, but he helped fuse them together. At the time, it was not normal for a black.
I feel like that is true to an extent. It is true to an extent. I also feel like that being the main reason of Off-White did have a negative impact on fashion, just because I feel like Off-White was the blueprint to essentially start increasing prices on streetwear. Even though Off-White was never supposed to. Off-White was, like you said, Off-White was high-end streetwear. But because of that, we can't forget it's high-end. And I feel like Off-White did kind of start the era of streetwear prices becoming boosted. So, you know, it's a good thing. It's also a bad thing. Like, I see what Virgil was doing. You know, like, bringing something that the young niggas grew up on, off the young kids grew up off of streetwear, trying to merge that to high-end fashion. But I also feel like that kind of had a negative impact on the culture, too.
Streetwear designer to be able to break into the high-end fashion industry. Virgil wanted his brand to bridge the gap between black and white and streetwear and high fashion. But he also wanted to serve as an inspiration for young designers. So one of Virgil's biggest things was inspiring people through his work. He wanted people to be better than him. And I saw some similarities that because of that, even though Guillermo's been creating for a long time, I can see, I don't know if Guillermo feels like this, but in a way, just from when I did my research on this, I can see how Virgil's whole MO was inspiring people to create the new thing and create the new streetwear brand that would surpass him. I can see Guillermo kind of walking the bridge that Virgil helped create of streetwear and high-end fashion, because 424, which started off as a brand that was just selling hoodies and t-shirts and stuff like that, now has its own presence at Paris Fashion Week, which is big. That's not something that happens often, you know. So so he's kind of following Virgil's footsteps, even if he directly did it or indirectly did it. Virgil's unapologetic designs not only led to Off-White becoming one of the most popular streetwear brands of all time, also inspired so many young creatives to create their own brand or to do whatever. And I want to make a different video about that, about Virgil's inspiration. But yeah, Virgil inspired so much just because he was a normal guy who loved to create, who loved clothes, who loved music, and he made his whole lifestyle about it. And look at the pinnacle he reached. He was able to design for Louis Vuitton before he passed away, you know? Virgil laid the foundation for streetwear brands such as 424, as Off-White was one of the first brands to fuse streetwear and high-end fashion.
That's really why I fuck with Virgil. Like, everybody has different reasons why they look up to Virgil. Virgil was a regular nigga. Virgil was he was an average Joe. He was a regular dude that just had great ideas and a great plan and just shared it with the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe that there was any nepotism involved. I don't believe that he had any famous relatives or whatever the case may be. He was a regular dude.
Paris Fashion Week. Virgil's story and philosophy made him a trailblazer in the fashion industry. So yeah, Virgil was that boy, man. Now we're gonna go into our next philosophy on why I think Guillermo can become the next Virgil. So the second philosophy is they both understand the beauty and imperfection. So what that means is creating art is not always about inventing something new. However, it is often about building upon past ideas, using your own interpretation. Virgil's mentality before he passed away, obviously. Before his passing, Virgil taught lessons at Harvard, speaking about a philosophy he calls the 3% rule. I'm sure y'all have heard of that, which means taking a pre-existing idea and adding 3% of your own original idea to it and making in a way you kind of created something new. So just by adding 3% of your own interpretation to an item that could be iconic, you make it your own. So like how you could see in Virgil, a lot of Off-White it would just have Air Jordan 1s with quotation marks on them, zip ties on them. That just shows the way how Virgil used his own creative expression in a way to expand upon what's already been created.
I think the 3% rule is one of the greatest rules in fashion. And I don't think he really got in depth with how good that is, but the 3%, hold on. Let me look this stuff up real quick. Like, bro, as we can see right here, you see how little Virgil changed about the Off-White. I mean, about the Jordan 1, but it looks damn near it doesn't look like a completely different shoe, but you can tell what Virgil did. Like, Virgil really did not change shit about the shoe at all. But at the end of the day, it still looks so much different than a regular Jordan 1. But he didn't change shit for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I feel like you could write a whole book about this nigga, and it would be a hit.
Right? Through all his different brands over the years, Virgil has never had the goal of reinventing fashion, but just using his own interpretation to tell his own story. And he successfully did it. That's why Virgil's passed away a few years back, and I'm still talking about it to this day. And you're watching this video about it to this day. Virgil understood that a strong part of what makes us all unique is how we interpret and perceive different things. Virgil's view on fashion and just creative expression as a whole often reflected in his work, as he often added his own personal touch to classic silhouettes like the Jordan 1, like the Air Prestos, like Air Forces, whatever it may be. Virgil was that boy, man. And Virgil's interpretation is what made Off-White iconic. It wasn't the fact that he just was charging a dumb amount of money. It was the fact his interpretation, because nobody else's interpretation or perception of certain things was like Virgil's, because Virgil's his authentic self, and he realized that there was no such thing as a perfect thing, but his what you call it, his interpretation was perfect, you know what I mean, in his own way. It was authentic, which makes it perfect. Him blending his own ideas and philosophies into pre-existing ideas created products that sparked interest in the minds of consumers. Now we're going to talk about how does Virgil's work relate to Guillermo. So similar to Virgil, Guillermo does not believe in reinventing the wheel, but he believes in deconstructing what is considered to be normal, which ties back to his overarching philosophy that art is perfectly imperfect. That's deep. We're gonna break it down. In his own way, Guillermo uses his version of the 3% rule to reflect his interpretation on fashion and his own life experiences. Through his different collections, most notably the one shown at Paris Fashion Week, Guillermo uses discarded and deconstructed luxury materials to challenge what a high-end fashion brand should look like. So like he said in the quotation at the start of the video, he knows that he himself isn't like a big fashion house like Louis Vuitton. So if he's gonna create something, he wants it to have a meaning to it and have like some real effort put into it. You know what I mean? That's why he deconstructs a lot of his different items like jackets or whatever it may be, or that's why you see he uses certain garments that you wouldn't even be able to tell was a certain garment by looking at it through the screen. You got to feel it. You know what I mean? Guillermo's deconstructing points back to the brand's ethos of being imperfectly imperfect. Literally exactly. Guillermo understands that his authenticity is what makes his art worth consuming. Not the fact that he is using the most expensive materials in the world and that it's perfect and that it's like a fashion house like a Balenciaga or Louis Vuitton, Gucci, whatever it may be. This connects to Virgil's philosophy in the fact that Guillermo has taken what he is inspired by and deconstructed it to make it his own. So the fact that they both share these two different philosophies, even though they approach them in different ways, these two similar philosophies kind of are part of the reason why their brands are so authentic and so relatable by users. By consumers, and the reason why they were able to create like a community and a world behind them, and why people want to associate themselves with the brand or whatever it may be. So, although their approaches are different, the two share similar philosophies and are going down similar paths. 424, which started off as a streetwear brand and is exploding within the high fashion industry. People all over are connecting with the pieces and the story behind it. 424 is similar to Off-White's trajectory of starting off selling hoodies to becoming a frequent at Paris Fashion Week. Virgil and Off-White helped build the bridge between streetwear and high-end fashion, and now Guillermo and 424 are using that similar philosophies and strategies to walk through it. So that's pretty much the video, man. I hope y'all enjoyed. Shout out to Guillermo. If you ever need a model, hit me up. Shout to Cash K. Put a word in for me, bro.
You know, this was a good video. How I feel about it is, I'm not acting like 424 has just became a brand, but I feel like it's way too early to try to compare 424 or say it's gonna become the next Off-White. I feel like 424 is more of a luxury clothing brand than Off-White. At least that's how I feel. Now, Guillermo does have ties to the next eras of streetwear icons like Bruce, Kai, Cash K, I believe his name is. I'm blanking on his name. Is that the name that this dude just said? I forgot.
If you ever need a model, hit me up. Shout to Cash K. Put a word.
Yeah, no, yeah. Cash K. Yep. I just feel like it's kind of a little bit too early, especially for everything that Virgil has done for fashion. We just gotta see.